remineralization of tooth enamel using iontophoresis. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. I was looking into modern, less painful ways of treating cavities, or caries as I think they're called, and I ran across this paper, which I thought was very interesting. So you guys want to look that up, you'll know where I'm getting my information. And then I found a United States patent application for, I think, the same technology. Look at how old it is, 2010. And I found most of the information, I think, in here, in this application, although there are other papers on this that I found on the internet. So do your research if you want to look into this more. Essentially, what the idea is that the caries, the cavities, before actually I guess they become cavities, are demineralized areas of the tooth enamel. And you can, they surmised that you could remineralize these areas using an electrical potential and a current flowing through to draw in to the tooth the minerals that is lacking, namely calcium and phosphorus. So what they came up with is a method to do this using available equipment and chemicals. And one of the chemicals is a one that they seem to like is something called CPPAP. I think it's down here. Oh, no, that's not it. See if I can find it. I think I'm too far in the document. Yeah, CPPAP. And it's available in different products. Here's one I found. It's called Recalcitrant Gum. It's available in like Japan, or this one comes from Japan. I bought it, had it shipped to me. This one came from Thailand, and I ordered it. I think it was through Amazon, or maybe it was eBay. But anyways, you can get this stuff. Tried it, makes it, but they don't sell it in the United States. That's the material, that the chemical, the CPPAP, and I'm not even going to try to pronounce it, is the reservoir of the calcium and phosphorus that is used during iontophoresis process. So it's relatively simple. It seems they do a preparation of the tooth surface to remove proteins and any biofilm that's on the surface, and then they apply the reservoir material. And there's a whole bunch of different ones that could be used. And then you apply the current through an electrode. Well, I couldn't quite figure out how to apply the material or the electrode to surfaces like in between the teeth. That's where I was having trouble. So what I came up with is an idea for using a water pick. Now I'm not using the water pick in the power mode as you normally would. What I'm doing is I'm using gravity feed. So it turns out to use this brand of water pick, if you have the handpiece lower than the reservoir here, the liquid will just flow through in a nice calm stream. So what I did is I took this handpiece, and these are replaceable. You can buy a new one, so I'm not worried about ruining one. I drilled a very tiny hole in the side of it, down there at the handle, and in the plastic tube. And then I threaded a piece of gold wire that I also bought off of, I think it was on Amazon. It's kind of expensive, but anyways, you only use a small piece, and it's a thin piece of gold wire. I threaded it through the tube, and then I connected it a couple of loops of brass wire, and that forms the electrode. And then for the solution, or as they call it, the reservoir, I'm hoping this works, I used distilled water, and I dissolved into it calcium phosphate. Now, I don't have any, I'm not recommending any of these products, by the way. It's just this what I found and what I could use. This is dicalcium phosphate, dicalcium phosphate dibasic or something like that. It's one of the things that was listed. I looked into it. It's listed here in this paper, in this patent application. There are other ones. For instance, I have, obviously I'm doing this in my bathroom, this brand here. It's also, it doesn't say on that side, dicalcium phosphate. And what I do is I put some of it in a jug of water, distilled water. I like these clear jugs. And it takes a long time for the calcium phosphate to dissolve. And you don't get a whole lot of it in solution. And I put this fish tank heater, into the top of the jug, and I keep it, I think, around 80 degrees for a couple of reasons. One, when you start spraying this stuff on your tooth, cold water is kind of exciting, especially if you have a sensitive tooth, sensitive to temperature. So I try to keep it warm. It's less less painful. Anyways, you can also set this in front of a furnace vent. That's what I'm doing. I set it in front of a furnace vent and let the heat in the wintertime will keep it warm. And I think that helps dissolve the calcium phosphate. What I use I have this cheap total dissolved solid meter. I got this off of Amazon, I think. Oh, by the way, if you happen to buy one of these, you want to play with this stuff, make sure you get the type that you can replace the battery. Because I got one where my original one, you could not replace the battery. And it was disposable. Like when the battery wore out, you threw it out. And I was like, I don't want that. So anyways, it usually peaks out about 67 parts ppm on this on the meter. That's as high as I've been able to get it, so hopefully that's sufficient concentration. To do the pre-treatment, it says to remove the proteins. Well, the best I can come up with is like this digestive enzyme, which I got at a local store, health food store, vitamin store. Bromelain. Here's one. It's bromelain papaya. It's papain and bromelain. Again, I'm not recommending any of these brands. If you're going to look into this and experiment, it's just what I could find. But the idea is I chew the tablet up, especially these. These are mint flavored, and I kind of swish it around for 15 minutes. That's just a swag. I have no idea if that's correct timing, and hopefully that dissolves the buildup of protein layers as they discuss in the paper. Now, another option is a enzyme called L-arginine. I caution anybody who wants to try L-arginine, though. It's very basic. It has a high pH when you put it and dissolve it in water. I tried this, dissolving some in water, and it burned my mouth. So if you do it, if you try that as your protein biofilm dissolver, make sure you mix it with some kind of acid like lemon juice or something. And what I did is I dissolved the tablet in water, or actually it was a capsule. I dumped the contents in some water, and then I started adding like eyedropper fulls of vinegar until I found the amount of vinegar that would leave my pH paper at a neutral state. So you have to have some pH paper. And then when I put it in my mouth, it felt like water with well, I used apple cider vinegar, so it had an apple cider vinegar type of a flavor to it, but it didn't have the acidity, or it didn't burn my mouth like the L-arginine would. So that's another option. Some people claim it's a good one to use for combating periodontal disease, because it apparently will eat away at the biofilm that the periodontal bacteria live in.